Hey Cookie, we're sponsored by Mike's Hard Lemonade this week. That's what Mike Pence calls it when he watches the movie Gladiator. Oh, hey guys. Mike's Hard Lemonade brings you another episode of JL's Book Club, where we don't talk about Fight Club, because we didn't read Fight Club. And just an official word from our sponsor, Mike's Hard Lemonade. JL, please don't tell people we're sponsoring you. Mike's Hard Lemonade. Guys, if you're one of the 3 people who's been watching the videos on the Patreon, I thank you for that. Last month we reviewed Invisible Child, which just so happened to win the Pulitzer Prize a mere weeks after I posted my review. And like 12 of you watched it. So apparently, world-class comedian plus Pulitzer Prize equals total apathy. So thank you for that. And this month is a change of pace. As I promised, I read the book Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James. Now, if you see this little symbol here on the paperback edition, National Book Award finalist. Well, that sounds pretty darn good. So I am not somebody inclined to read fantasy books. I enjoy Game of Thrones, the show, and never read the books. Don't care about the books. I've read The Hobbit, I've read Lord of the Rings, I enjoyed those, I read those in school. But I've never dug into the sort of real nitty-gritty of the fantasy genre. And I don't think I will be after this book. Now, this is, as I said, a critically acclaimed book. Let me read you what Michiko Kakutani, if I'm pronouncing that right, said from the New York Times. Gripping, action-packed, the literary equivalent of a Marvel Comics universe. Well, like Marvel Comics, there was a real gangbang orgy of excess in terms of this book. And just it's book 1 of the Dark Star, the Dark Star trilogy. And we've got revolutionary, says Entertainment Weekly, spectacular, says the Washington Post, as well realized as anything Tolkien made, Neil Gaiman, whoever that is. Now, Marlon James won the Man Booker Prize for a previous novel, A Brief History of 7 Killings, which I have not read, but I have heard of. And so I also heard him interviewed on the New Yorker podcast. So he had a lot of clout, a lot of respect for this book. And I thought, well, if I'm going to jump into the fantasy genre, because I read mostly nonfiction, but I thought, let me read, fiction I think probably works different muscles in the brain sometimes. And obviously a fictional book about a stand-up comedian / lawyer might not stretch the muscles as much, because that would be something I'm very familiar with. But this world, based in African folklore and fantasy and all sorts of things, I thought this will really stretch my imagination. This might be a good mental exercise. And from all these critics and these impressive seals of being a finalist for major awards, I said, well, probably can't do much better to jump into the fantasy genre. But it's sort of, after reading this book, I'd say it sort of reminds me of what I think of improv comedy. Great improv comedy is okay. The best in the world when they do improv, mildly amusing. Okay, Wayne Brady at his Michael Jordan best of improv. Okay, it wasn't worse than watching grass grow. Okay, fair enough. It was slightly better than a Jeff Dunham show. Congratulations. And so, without further ado, let's talk about Black Leopard Red Wolf. Or as I like to think of it, African Game of Thrones with animals of all genders with large genitals fucking and murdering violently. Wouldn't fit on the cover, but it was a true struggle for me. This is one of these books where, the inertia of trying to read this book. The first 80 pages were the longest 80 to read, because you're getting used to a different narrative style. You're trying to really follow what the hell is going on. But eventually the story gets moving. I'm not going to lie, even when I got to the end of the book, I was still going, where the fuck are they? What's happening? Who's running after who? Who's the bad? I think this is the bad guy. What the... Why are you telling this in recap form now? Now we're doing flashbacks at the end of the book. What is going... Now, Michiku Kakutani, who, you know, as this review goes on, I really won't give a shit about pronouncing her name correctly because of her insane praise of this nonsense. Yeah, I don't know. I really tried hard to focus, and I got the basic gist. And there are stretches where the book becomes a little more conventional, and I'm going, okay, I get what's happening, and I get the narrative choices, and I'm following what happened. But it was work. Now, I get it. Not everything has to be mass market paperback. It doesn't have to be a John Grisham book where you just devour it in 4 days and go, I followed everything. Very, very straightforward. But this felt like work. And sometimes literature can be that. But I'm not in school anymore. I graduated. And sometimes I just want something to take me away without feeling like labor. So basically the gist of this book, if you're still with me, if the 3 people who care about the book reviews are still watching, it is basically the main character is a wolf man sort of character who goes by the name of Tracker. And he seems to be pansexual, I think. I think that's the right word. A lot of fucking in this book. A lot of animal-human hybrids fucking. My favorite were the hyenas, who are all women with huge cocks. So if this is it, if right now you're just watching this going, Amazon.com, I need this book. No. 1 day shipping, please. 1 day shipping. 2 days, I can't wait for 2 days. Then good, keep listening. But it is, I kept thinking to myself, I was like, is this the genre? Am I mad at a genre? Like, is he in keeping with the traditions of the fantasy genre? Is it lonely men who want to hear about incredible acts of violence and violent acts of fucking? Is this the genre of fantasy? Because I love Game of Thrones, but I'd be curious to know from the people who read the books, who rank right below vegans and CrossFit people as people who need to let you know they've read the books. Are the books like horrific? Are they like super violent? Is George R.R. Martin like a creepy old dude who's like, I never had sex and got beat up as a kid, so now in my books, this character is gonna rip your throat out with his hard cock? I'm just curious because maybe I'm disrespecting the genre. Maybe it is for maybe this is the alternative, and I don't want to get into like recent news. But if this is the alternative, if reading and creating work like this is the alternative to actually being a violent or perverted human being, by all means, make it a bestseller. But for me, in my normal life, who likes to read at a Starbucks or in a park, I'd rather enjoy what I'm reading. That's not for everybody, though. Some people obviously like mental, intellectual, and sexual torture while they read. And that's, I'm not going to kink shame. We don't kink shame on JL's book club, okay? But he basically becomes part of this group that's searching for a king, a boy who was supposed to be king because, just very briefly, the line of succession in this kingdom was supposed to be maternal. But several generations earlier, that was changed. And it became a paternal succession to become king. And that was wrong, and that's not how it's supposed to be. But people were slaughtered, people were murdered to hide this secret, and now they're looking for the boy, this band of merry, well-hung animal men monsters are looking for the boy. And there's confusion, and then sometimes there's not confusion, and all throughout, lots of sex, lots of violence, and even more confusion. So I'm just going to read you, this isn't going to be one of those long passages that I read from books that, I wish I could read the whole book to you. This is just going to be a short passage that I felt I made a note of it when I got to it on page 552, okay? I felt like this was a passage that would just kind of sum how I felt about the whole book, and would let you know. So, I woke again to see 2 of the grass-haired devils. They ripped off Nasaka's robes and spread her legs, and the impundulu, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, was hard. And that's not like a test or an exam that was difficult. We're referring to the impundulu's cock. I don't know why he listened to me when I begged him to ravage me instead. Maybe he saw me as more beautiful. I was too weak and they were upon me. How he mounted me, tracker. No wet, no spit. He rammed into me until I cut and bled, and hark! He used my own blood to ease his fuck into me. You don't hear that a lot. You don't hear often of the lubricating sexual powers of blood, but here we go. Then he bit me until he supped blood, and he drank, and the others drank too. And then he kissed the cut right in my neck, and lightning left him and went right into my blood rivers. All this made her watch. They didn't have to make the boy. Good night. That's how I like to go to bed at night. I just read that passage and go, good night. Blood lubricant. What the fuck? What the fuck? Now, I read that passage. You may think I've selected some, oh, he went for that. No, there's a giant in this book, although he doesn't like to be called a giant. I respect that. As a person of height, I respect that. But he describes they're so gigantic that they can't, their mothers die in childbirth because they are ripped apart when they give birth to this giant species, and that they can't really have sex because their penises destroy females. It destroys them. So, I mean, if this gets adapted into a Netflix series, that'd be a fun episode, right? You know, just like you know, one of the giants from Game of Thrones whips out his 8-foot cock and murders a woman during intercourse. But that's the fantasy genre, apparently. So feel free in the comments if you are into the fantasy books. Let me know if this is in keeping. So the second one just came out a couple of months ago, I believe, in hardcover. It's just been released. Not going to read it. I'm not. My curiosity was barely piqued, so I'm not going to read and see how do all these characters that confused me in the first book, how do they confuse me in the second book of the Dark Star trilogy? No, I'm just assuming they'll find new ways to use blood as sexual lubricant and other things. So I don't recommend this book. And I'm being honest, saying this is obviously a critically acclaimed, well-regarded book. And it is very heavy LGBTQIA+, the plus standing for magical beasts and creatures that also have fluid sexuality. But it, my comment to the author would be representation is important, but it's not this important. It's important, but this is overstepping the lines of important and then just getting to a point where I go, what is this? So maybe that's me. Maybe that's a little residual bigotry on my part, that if these were all straight characters murdering each other with dicks, I'd go, well, that's just normal. That's how the Bible says it should be. But these gay man animals murdering with penises, that's not right. I'd like to think I would be disgusted by a more heteronormative fantasy epic involving blood as lubricant. I'd like to think I am equal opportunity disgusted. So in terms of my disgust and my displeasure, I feel like this representation matters. I would have been unhappy with this book no matter what the identity, the gender identity, the sexual orientation of any of the half animal, half people in this book would be. But overall, I would say I hope you enjoyed this review, because I was looking forward to sharing it. Because as I was reading through this book, I just kept saying to myself, I'm doing this for the review. I'm doing this for the 79 patrons and the 11 that watch the book reviews. So I hope the 5 of you that stuck with this really enjoyed it. I don't recommend getting this book unless what I have just said makes you think, I love fantasy books and this sounds like the GOAT fantasy book. Then go get it. Barnes & Noble. I advocate for Barnes & Noble, not Amazon. But yeah, that was it. So thanks for being Patreon subscribers. Hopefully this grows. And next month, because it's summer reading season, okay? So summer reading season means beach reads and like maybe lighter topics. So I thought, well, I like sports and I like comedy, so how about this month, the month of July's book reviews, I'll do a twofer, and they'll be sort of more beach read types. So the 2 books I will be reviewing in July will be an autobiography, a biography on Robin Williams that got good reviews, and I've had it for a while and I've been meaning to read it. And the other book will be a biography about Roberto Clemente. So see, that's more beach ready, you know, a sports book. I need a little bit of a palate cleanser after, cum and blood in Africa animals. So, for a lighter take on book reviews, I will be reviewing a book about a comedian that killed himself and a baseball player that died in a plane crash delivering relief supplies to his home country. So on that pleasant note, let's have a great summer, everybody. This has been JL's Book Club, where remember, books, they're like documentaries for smart people.